WarsawJS.
Welcome to the 88th WarsawJS Meetup live. Thank you very much. And this is live. This is being broadcast simultaneously. We have another audience at warsawjs.com/live. So if anyone wants to tune in from abroad, if you want to tell your friends how to reach us, that's how we do it. Number 88, what that means is, first of all, that's approximately my age, so it's a coincidence. That was funny. And also that means that in about 1 year, give or take a lockdown or something like that, we will be having our 100th approximately 1 year from today. So I'm really impressed. The reason that I'm here with you guys is because this community is very positive. And when I first met Piotr Zientara and the rest of you, I thought this is a great thing that they're sharing information and knowledge, and everyone seems to get along so well. So I'm really, really pleased and happy to be with you here today. This organization team consists of Piotr Zientara, who I think many of you know, Maciej Wachniewski. Hello, Maciej, if you're out there watching. We see you. Louisa Haas, who is sitting over here. She's a lot of help. And Gabriela Chuha. Now, if I make any mistakes in pronouncing these names, please forgive me. I'm sure you understand how difficult that can be. This consistent challenge for me. However, at the same time, if I accidentally say some words in Polish, I'm hoping that you will forgive me. Because that happens from time to time. That sometimes no kurde jakaś coś tam. Okay. So, in addition, we have our volunteers. Anna Lukianova, who I also know. We've worked together several times. Konrad Dzikoński. Dobrze mówię so? Tak, Dzikoński? Thank you. And, Piotr Sławinski as well. Is that you? You? That is you. No, I say I'm looking at the picture. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at the picture. It's great to see you again. It's nice to see you here, and it's really, really fantastic. Artur Kozubek. Continue. Okay. All right. Additional volunteers. We have Anna Kurzinska. You can give her a hand also. Come on, guys. We need some energy. I'm listed here, Barry Solone, as a volunteer. However, I want to remind everyone that, in fact, I am the Master of Ceremonies, not just a volunteer. And I really hope you can remember to refer to me as such. And Jakub Strabejko. Jakub Strabejko. Did I say that correctly? Okay, so we have a lot of volunteers. What is WarsawJS? And as I said before, WarsawJS exists to support both professional and novice software developers. Now, I can be considered a novice. However, in fact, I know absolutely nothing about tech. So please forgive me for my ignorance, and thank you for the honor of allowing me to stand in front of you. You're not an easy crowd to impress or to please. I'll do my best. Novice software developers within the IT community. We intend to accelerate the process of education by sharing our knowledge and experience. And that is the difference here, that WarsawJS is not charging you to come and pay for these meetings. You have the opportunity to experience some get some really valuable knowledge from people who have experience and who can help you in developing your career and finding your direction. Our mission statement. Okay, Berlin Code of Conduct. What this really means, I'll break it down to simple English. Do not be rude, do not be inconsiderate, and no intolerant behavior will be tolerated in these meetings. That means no discrimination on the base of sex, race, nationality, gender, sexual orientation, hair color. I just added that. So we're going to be fair and we're going to be kind to everyone in these meetings, and no intolerance or rude behavior will be tolerated. This is the code which we honor. Is that clear for everybody? If I happen to say something rude by mistake, please forgive me, but don't throw me out. Okay. This community is growing, and it's been growing since I became acquainted with you guys a couple of years ago. Now we're close to 6,000 members in this community. Uh, now we're close to 6,000 members in this community. That's right. That's right. It's not a small number, and it's something to respect. Do you guys know how important you are in the world of IT? In Poland, we have the most vibrant and most viable community of IT developers in all of Europe. And I'm not sure if you guys recognize how important you are. So, having the opportunity to be together here and to meet on a regular basis and to also gain knowledge, I think this is a good time to take the mantle and really take charge of your power. WarsawJS.com is our website, and you can visit us there. Our sponsors today are, and this is where we really need your support, and we need to hear you after I finish the list. We have 10 Clouds, CK Source, CallStack, Fresha, Pack Help, PostClick, Prisma, Sumo Logic, and XFang. Give them a hand, everybody. All of these people, in combination with our volunteers and our great organization team, have made it possible for us to be here today. Today there will be a contest as well. If you want to get a 100% discount, now talk about giving things away, for a JetBrains license, give a lightning talk. Now, lightning talks today. In addition to our speakers, there will be an opportunity for 3 people to give a 5-minute lightning talk if you feel so motivated. And by doing so, you can be eligible to win this contest. Come up to us sometime in between the speakers and simply apply and say, I'd like to give a lightning talk. Each of the speakers today will have 25 minutes to give their presentation, and I am here this time to strictly enforce that rule. 25 means 25. This is out of consideration for you all. I'm sure you have other things you need to do after this meeting, and also it gets us to the networking period of the evening a little bit faster. So 25 minutes, please limit your talks and try to be considerate. And our first speaker today, oh, by the way, in 1 year, I just want to say this again, it means that 1 year from now, we will be experiencing the 100th meetup for WarsawJS. Do you understand that? That's 100. That's a fantastic number. Yeah, that's how I feel. And I hope I live long enough to see that. All right, so I'd like to invite now, once again, Mr. Mateusz Falkowski, who is again giving a talk on React.js. The title of his talk is React.js Again. Thank you very much. And where is Mateusz? Are you here somewhere? There you are. Oh, I thought that was you. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Yeah, come help me switch this because I don't want to disturb anything because I'm very non-technical. I promise you I know zero about tech. I am the innocent, ignorant person in the room. So I'm counting on all of you to help. Ah, that's how you do it. That's simple. Thank you very much. "25 minutes." Welcome. Let's go. Hi.
One, two, one, two, one, two. Okay. It's okay. So, hello, I'm Mateusz, and I'm a web and mobile developer working on the development of web and mobile applications since 2008, and I also run my own company, UpIdeaPL. It's a one-man orchestra, so entire company is here. And I would like to today to tell you a few words about React Native, how it's to code this kind of the applications, And please raise your hand if you didn't hear anything about React.js or React Native, let's say, yeah. Okay, so I will maybe briefly explain that React Native is a library for creating web applications in, mobile applications in a reactive way using JavaScript and React.js. And it's not yet another hybrid application engine because it's not engaging WebView as a core component. It just straightly manipulates the elements in native views on the platforms, on the instance of the application on platforms iOS and Android. And in React Native, the JavaScript is executed in embedded JavaScript engine, and yeah, and manipulates the view. And now I will tell you why do I love it. Because with React Native, you can rocket fastly write the native cross-platform apps, and the logic regarding the view is kept on always on one place. You can still utilize the best React features like hook state, props. Everything on this React layer works as in traditional React web application. And it's possible to share the business logic between web and mobile without any adapters, because you're managing it really similar way in some scope. Which scope I will show you later. And the concept here is to have similar API about, for example, styling to the web. So if you were a web developer before, you will find sometimes the right solution just using your intuition. So I think it's really worth to code there. And yeah, my presentation actually has a title, Build Your Second React Native App. But just for reference, I will let's fastly go through the basic and the first, your first React app, React Native app. So you can use the React Native package to init the React Native application, and it will create more or less the project that you can see on the screenshot. I modified it a little bit because I wanted to point out what is the most important here. So it's important to see that there is not just JavaScript code. There are also directories for Android and iOS that contain some native code. So let's write our first React Native application. So what is the first one? Coffee time. Okay, let's take some coffee. After that, let's open the IDE. Okay, let's create the project. No, I don't want to update it today. Remind me tomorrow about that. Okay, CPU goes to 900% because the IDE just indexing our project. Did you see that cut? Okay. Yeah, so we are set and writing our app. Yeah, we got it. So we have something like that, and it's basic React Native application. We can consider something like that. This is a single React component, and we can tell that it's a really basic application that shows some image and text. And yeah, let's maybe go through the most important components in React Native. The view component is something like equivalent to the divider on the web. This is the basic box that actually we can position, we can put into the Flexbox flow. Yeah, the most important thing is that React Native operates like position the elements using the Flexbox manner. So it's something that you know from the web. And important thing is that not everything in React Native can be a box. In the web, you basically can transform any element into the box. Here it's not possible. The components of React Native have some are grouped in the classes, and only some of them have this ability to be a box. For example, image view, view, touchable opacity, and so on. Text component is it's the actually the component that keeps any textual content. You cannot put into the React Native application the textual content as it is, as in web applications, that you can just write some text anywhere and it will render. No, here we have something that it's, let's say, similar to internal text node on the web, because every text that you are putting on the website is internally treated as a text node. And texts can nest other texts, for example, to build some formatted texts. And we have the image component here that it's responsible for handling the images. In React Native, we have two components that can keep images. It's image and image background, as I remember correctly. And the image is just for embedding any image. Image background is a view that has a image background. It's something like divider on the web, but with image background. Okay. So let's try to add an interactive feature to our application. It will be this traditional incrementing feature. And yeah, we can see that to our basic application code, we added two sections that are the section with state handling and the section that handle the displaying of the counter and button. So this way we created our first interactive application in React.js. The debug feature is something that makes work with React Native application more easy. When you shake your device, which runs your React Native application, you can enable React developer, sorry, not React, but Chrome developer tools that will let you, for example, see the console logs that you are writing, that you are emitting from your application. It's a nice feature, but has some limitations about that later on. Okay, so congrats, we have our first quite interactive application ready. But why I did name my presentation like build your second React Native application? Because there is already a lot of the guides in the internet how to build your first React Native application. And even now you've seen a moment before this kind of the guide. But the real, this kind of guides can give you a wrong impression that React Native development does not differ a lot from web programming. It does. And it does differ really much. So there are similarities, but it's differ. And building and maintenance of your second mobile application, so the full-featured one, will unveil you the real issues that sits in React Native development. And I would like to present some of ones from my experience. Okay, so assuming that we have our first application ready, let's consider what are the key functionalities of the mobile app. So it's a routing machine. We have to route between the screens. We have to implement some push notifications and possibly entire communication module. It's what clients love, so faster or later you will be asked for that. And strategies of storing the data on the offline usage. Of course, everything, as I mentioned, is also possible to implement in web application, but we not always doing that. But in mobile application, it's something that is crucial. Okay, and let's assume we are regular web developers. They promised us that we will be building React native application just in JavaScript. So let's set up some routing. And after making some updates to your resume, because you became now in this few minutes mobile developer, you refilled the cup of coffee, going back to development of your brand new mobile app. And okay, let's Google for some navigation library. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3 available. There is a React Navigation, React Router Native, React Native Navigation by Wix, and etc. etc. So, okay, which to choose? But as we are quite green, developers of React Native, we just toss the coin, and okay, let's select this React Navigation. And after reading some instructions how to set up the application, we see something like that. Some pods, some Java editing. Come on. What is it? Okay, let's do it later. About the push notifications. Okay, so if you want to implement some push notifications that will be working continuously in the background, even if your application is not up, you probably will land with integrating some Firebase, React Native Firebase, let's say, which will integrate the push notifications. But again, they also requiring to go to the native code and change something. Oh no, they promised it will be writing the native apps JavaScript, and it's first surprise. Don't believe it. You will later or earlier you will land inside the native code, and you will have to change something there. Okay, so don't believe them if they talking like that. Okay, just to sum up, of course, you can be the developer which wants to extend yourself, and you want to learn, for example, Java. But if you are going to create a production app, be sure that you know more or less the architecture that you're targeting. So if you are doing application for iOS, just briefly go through the architecture of your target system. If you are going to do it on Android, also check how the mobile application on Android works, and what are the most often what are the problems related to that in React Native. Possible workaround around that is to use Expo. Of course, it adds some abstraction level that will let you escape from the native code, but you have to remember that it also adds some complexity. So you probably will need some help if the library that you want to use doesn't have Expo bindings. I had one case like that in my library recently, and if you just don't know how to do that, you are dependent on something that will write the extension to use the Expo. And about the React Native itself, in the server conditions, it's still unstable because it has 0 on the beginning. So yeah, it's a library that has some that it's not fresh, but some issues happening from time to time. For example, when there was a migration from 0.59 to 0.16, there was problem with Android X. And what happened? Of course, a lot of the libraries authors were required to migrate their libraries to Android X. So if you wanted just to bump your version of your React Native, you will have to take care about migrating to Android X. There was some, to be honest, the Jetifier which were helping that, but in the end, a lot of the libraries needed some manual migration. And what is also surprising for someone. The React Native has totally different runtime. When, of course, there is a table with comparison of the runtimes of the bundlers. Everything is, of course, elastic. We can switch to rollup, for example, about the bundler in the web. But by default, React Native works on Metro bundler, runs on JSC. Sorry, CJS is wrong here. Or Hermes, and renders not to the DOM, but to the native view. What is the surprise? Because some people still considering the views in React Native as they would render it to the browser. It's not true. There is no web view. The styling can a little bit remind the CSS. It's realized using the style property. And although it looks like a CSS in JS, it's not totally a CSS. It's not a CSS at all. It's just a group of the properties that names are intended to remind the CSS, but it's not CSS. And style properties are not inherited by the children. Positioning of the images is implemented a little bit different way than in the browser. They had to rewrite it from the scratch to tackle this this problem of cross-platform functionalities, and is realized by the special resize method and resize mode. So be aware of that. And there are some known issues about scaling the images on the production. So you will for sure also meet that problem. And what is the worst thing? It's appearing just on the production. So if you, for example, run your application in debug mode, you can even not see that problem, and you will see that only when your app will go to the production. Yeah, so be aware of that and follow them. Yeah, what is the really easy in web applications? In React Native, it's not so easy. It's the using, for example, the custom fonts. It's not just a drop-in solution like for example with Google Fonts that you are throwing the some embed script and you have it. You have to place them in the native application first and also take care about the naming, about the metadata inside. So it's the issue that will met you. Of course, there is a lot of the guides on the internet how to tackle that. But it's not working out of the box, as well as SVG support. You have to install some library to tackle that. Rich text support is also some problematic stuff. There is no HTML, so you will not be able to just drop in the formatted text. You have to also use some library to display the rich text. For example, this rich text React renderer or Markdown. So plan it in advance if you want to have the kind of feature in React Native. React Native universe is quite big. There is a Metro bundler, as I said before. It does not use the Webpack, the React Native by default. You can always escape into the Webpack with the CallStack's powerful repack package. They promised me that it works. I didn't test it, but yeah, the Metro has some limitations. For example, following the symlinks. So if you, for example, plan the Lerna feature in your application, be aware because Metro has some issues about that. It's possible, but it's not so easy. JavaScript core is another happy thing in React Native. So if you used to write your JavaScript applications, having in mind that you are writing it to the V8 and Chrome, it's not the same. JavaScript core is something that was that is known from Apple products like Safari and so on. So this is not implementing entirely all the new functionalities of future JavaScript. So be sure that you will configure the bubble good enough to handle the constructs, or you're polyfilling it. And the funny thing is what happens when you are running the application in this beautiful debug mode. Because by default, when the application is in the production mode, it uses this JavaScript core. But when you are enabling that debug mode, it takes the runtime from host machine, from host Chrome instance that is displaying this developer tools. So actually, in that case, your application running in V8 when you are in debug, and when you are switching back to the production, it uses totally other runtime. And it's surprise number 5. There is a Hermes on the way. It's a better, maybe better runtime. Let's see. It's still under the development. You can opt in for that, changing your native code in React Native. And it's open source JavaScript engine optimized to tackle this React Native applications. So it's something that it's a future of React Native. Maybe it will be better runtime, and it allows you to omit that problem with debugging, because you are binding there some other way. You are still debugging on the Hermes if you are debugging actually. Remember that libraries are powerful. React Native has a strong community of and brings thousands of the libraries. And remember that it's something characteristic for React Native packages, that they are not containing just the JavaScript, but also the native code. So in NPM package you have not only JavaScript, also the Android and so on. So be aware of that, and you have to link the libraries always when you are when you are installing the new. And React Native has something like auto-linking that should work, but you will often also end up with Cocoa Pods. What is Cocoa Pods? It's a package manager for React for iOS applications. So it's very likely that you will have to manipulate their by hand, because auto-linking not always work, or someone requires some application requires you to do it manually for some reason. Please remember that it's open source, so not always everything is delivered. Okay, so it's really brief, and I think really a heavy presentation of the features of React Native that you have to be aware of. To sum up, it's a powerful tool, but if you are going to write the application, remember that it's also the complex tool. It's not always about writing just the JavaScript, and yeah, keep in mind that it's complex. But enjoy. It's really powerful tool, and I really appreciate it, and it helped me a lot, and I really like it, and don't plan to leave that library. So enjoy, and thank you for listening. You can always follow me on GitHub. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Bye.
I forgot to mention, Mateusz, thank you very much. Nice job, and also in time. We love that. We have a 5-minute period between speakers. If anyone has any questions for Mateusz, this is a good time to ask. I will come to you with the microphone. Okay, of course, on the very end. Here we come.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I have 2 questions, actually. The first one, you mentioned that we have a couple of packages to add routing and rich text editor to our app. Are all of them maintained by community, or there is a desired package maintained by Facebook developers?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff is maintained by open source, so actually they are opened. there is a group of the packages on NPM that has a prefix React Native community. There were previously the part of the React Native, but they were moved to the open source maintenance. So part of them are, there is a group of these packages, but those that are responsible for rendering are not a part of Facebook's work, I can say.
Okay, thank you. And goes for the second question. How do we test React Native code? Is it just compatible with it?
Seems so. So, yeah, React testing library. As you can see, the React Native code is still React. So you can use the same tools that you are using for testing your web applications, but you have to, of course, take care of the mocking adequately.
Okay, I guess those were good questions. Any other questions, anybody on this side? One question, please, per person. That would be great. This Cocoa Pods made me feel very hungry. I don't know about anybody else. What is this Cocoa Pods? Anyway, any other questions? Anyone for Mateusz? Okay, well, thank you very much. I guess you've explained everything very well. We appreciate you very much.
It was my first fully featured presentation on the Meetup. So
good job. Thank you very much. We thank you. Are you sure? No more questions for Mateusz? Anton Kononenko. These names are not so easy for me. And his topic today is Node.js parallel processing. Of course, you'll have 5 minutes afterward to ask any questions to Anton as well. And we're looking forward to that. Anton, I guess you're speaking here for the first time as well?
No.
Of course not.
For the second.
Have we met before? No. This is our first meeting, I think. Okay. You're all set? Almost. So once again, people, let's give our special attention to Anton and see you in 25 minutes.
I will try. I will do my
Okay,
best.
it will be 25 for sure.
Dobra, współczynienie ekranu to będzie streamowane od razu, tak. StreamYarda nie. Ale mam linkę.
One moment, please.
Yeah, we need to connect.
How is this? Who is having a lightning?
Yes.
Anyone is eager to get this 100% discount for a 1-year JetBrains license? It's like 200 euros. It's a lot, you know.
If I'm not mistaken, 100% discount means free, right?
Exactly.
Okay, just checking.
Okay.
100% discount means free. So if you're interested in giving a lightning talk, just come over here to the table and whisper in someone's ear and let them know, and we can set you up. 5-minute lightning talk, it's not long, it's not going to be too painful. We promise. And I think Anton is ready. You good?
Almost there.
All right.
Just in case, I tried to trim this presentation actually, just in order to fit this 25 minutes limit. Hope it will work out.
Of course it will.
Okay, slideshow. Forget how to use Google Slide. Hello everyone, my name is Anton. I work as senior front-end engineer at Sumo Logic, and today we're gonna talk about bots.
The streaming is off.
Why?
I don't know, because StreamYard is strange. Share again. Share screen. Share.
Okay, now it's good. So today we're gonna talk about Node.js and parallel processing. I believe it's a very generic name and doesn't give a lot of insight what it's gonna be about. So how can we parallel Node.js code in general when we run some execution, calculation, whatever? Basically, there are several types of parallelization we can get. We can use quite old approach like multiple process. This can be done via cluster model. We can just spawn new processes of Node.js, or we can have an external runner which will run several Node.js processes. And in such a way, we can parallel our Node.js. We can also use threads, and we will talk more in a minute about this. We also can use SIMD, single instruction, multiple data. Basically, this feature allows us to perform several computation, usually on ints or low-level bytes, let's say primitives. Currently, it's available through WASM. WebAssembly added this feature like a few months ago. And we also can use SIMD through native models because C++ always had an access to SIMD. And we also can have parallelization through using GPU. It's not natively supported in Node.js, so it's kind of a hack. But it's still better to know that there is such alternative because we can use, for example, NVK, also known as Node Vulkan. I don't know, everyone knows what Vulkan project is? Anyone? Okay. Basically, I believe everyone knows what DirectX is, right? We play games. Okay, great. But DirectX was designed for Windows platform by Microsoft, and alternative was open sourced OpenGL. However, OpenGL performance is not so great compared to DirectX. And basically, Vulkan project was it started to bring this performance to all other platforms. And basically, this Node Vulkan, or NVK now, is just a wrapper over it. And you can also use headless.js. It basically implements WebGL version 1 in Node. And you can use shaders for, like you can render texture and actually parallel code, because rendering texture is just some computing, and you can put stuff there. Again, we're more gonna focus on threads. So, Node.js threads. I believe a lot of people get this question. How many Node.js threads has? Any answer? How many? 1, okay. Any other response? 1, one more? 4, okay. So, what about to test? You know, I always like tests. Let's see what we have. Like, we can use activity monitor. I had it open. You see it here? It's showing nothing because I filtered by node. Let's start very, very simple application. Basically, we start node, we time out for 1 minute. And let's see what happens. And we have 7. So, what's going on? That's a very popular answer, 1 thread. In reality, yes, we have 1 main thread, one which executes JavaScript. However,
when we talk about the threads in Node.js, we need to keep in mind that there is also a UFAL threads pool, which a lot of people think give us possibility to have non-blocking I/O, but we will go deeper a little bit in this topic. And by default, it's 4. So when you start Node.js application and you haven't configured it in any way, you would get 4 threads for libufal. And you also have V8 threads pool. And the size of this V8 thread pool actually depends. We'll get more details about on what it depends. However, in our case, we have 7 threads, right? So knowing that we have 1 main thread, 4 UFAL threads pool, that's 5. Simple math tells us that we have 2 V8 thread pool size. And that's how simple Node.js application looks like. And yeah, regarding this UFAL thread pool, as I said, and I believe many of you heard, it's used for non-blocking I/O. However, this is a thread pool with a limit. So if you have a lot of tasks which depends on UFAL threads pool, normally it's, I don't know, access to file system. Let's say you try to read, I don't know, something from file system, or I don't know, you have DNS resolution, which takes some time. And you have, for example, 5 operations which require DNS resolution. First 4 gonna be in parallel. The 5th gonna wait if you haven't changed these settings. And that's something you need to keep in mind, because you actually can easily get into blocking I/O as well with Node.js if you don't know how it works. And yeah, that's a small remark about this. Let's talk more about UFAL threads. What it's used for? I/O intensive tasks, right? File system, and mostly DNS. If you, for example, try to get the data from the network without using DNS, like you have an IP address and you just want to send a HTTP request, you actually wouldn't use I/O. It's not using UFAL threads pool. It's done in completely different way. But if you have a domain name, well, yeah, that's going to be executed through libufal. So again, if you want to have responsive and be not dependent on how many UFAL threads you have, using IPs may be a good option. It actually used for CPU-intensive tasks. And by default, Node uses for some crypto API and for zlib. And yeah, it's not only I/O. And in reality, there may be more cases depending on modules we use, because we have my native module which actually use under the hood libufals as well, and I don't know, do something on those threads as well. It may be CPU intensive, it may be I/O intensive, whatever. So V8, why and how this can be configured? Why it depends. Like, you actually can explicitly set how many V8 threads you want to have in the pool by passing a parameter. However, if you not provided this, it will try to calculate how many threads it can get depending on your system. So the more cores you have, the more chance that this pool size would be bigger. However, I personally haven't tested on a lot of machines just because I own one, and this limits my testing possibilities. But yeah, that's what they claim. Basically, V8 used for garbage collecting, because all of us know that when we collect in garbage, when I say garbage, I mean memory garbage, not garbage on the streets, we need to stop our system. However, not the whole process require stopping the world from the very beginning. We actually can try to count references, see if something already move it, and this actually happening on these threads. And another thing is optimization. All we know that V8 is really great in optimizing. It tries to optimize your function, it tries to optimize your objects you created, and this is some work which need to be done, and that's done in V8 thread. And It may be used for something else, maybe in the future, I don't know, maybe they would have some third kind of task, but basically that's the use case. So, is it all available types of threads? Well, if it would be, I believe this talk would be very, very short, but it's not. You can actually spawn threads through native modules, because native modules has access to pthreads on Unix system, so you can use it directly. And there are a lot of modules which actually using this. And well, for quite a long time, I would say there are also worker threads. It has been introduced in Node.js version 10 under experimental flag, but quite soon it got to stable stage, and now it's enabled everywhere, so you can use this. And yeah, let's check very, very simple example how this worker thread looks like. So we have, again, a little bit more complicated Node.js. Hope everyone can see my screen. So I have my main JS, right? What it does, it starts the server. It also creates a worker thread here. And it basically tries to read some file. If I pass the message, some message start, I just read and do nothing. We just try to read something and console logs that we did it. And we do the same in main. The only difference is like we have here 20 files. Main thread read first 10, and the worker actually read the second 10. So let's try to run and see how it works. So first of all, let's check how many threads we have. And we assume that it's gonna be 8, and it's correct, 8. That's good. So let's try to test. Okay. I believe I actually need to stop presenting. So we will get here in a moment. So server started on 12.12 port. Okay, I executed query. I would expect, yeah, see some console log, worker read and complete, main start reading. Here several logs, just because browser sent several requests actually. However, let's check how many threads we have now. 12. It's not the same as it was just a minute ago, right? And I had my workers thread there. So what's happening? Let's talk more about workers threads. Let me return to the slideshow. So workers threads. Basic idea that it's quite similar to web worker you have in a browser. API quite similar. You can communicate with main worker by post messages. Also, you can pass some data on the very beginning to the workers thread if you want to. This is not possible in web worker, but in workers thread it is. When we pass in this message, it goes through the same HTML structure cloning algorithm. It means that you can basically pass simple objects, simple arrays. Just think about something that can be serialized to JSON, and you would get the right answer, I believe. But it means that it also not supporting errors, function, field descriptors, prototype chain, and maybe a few other things it's not mentioned here. So yeah, we cannot pass classes to our workers thread, but we can pass an object and create a class there from it. And there are also possibility to share the memory, because by default, main thread and workers thread has separate memory. Because a lot of concurrent programs has a lot of issues with sharing memory. And by default, it's separated. However, we can share the memory via array buffer or shared array buffer. We'll back to this in a few minutes. And not everything works in the same way in the workers thread. So first of all, several APIs from the process module does not work completely in a workers thread. For example, you cannot abort, you cannot exit, there are a few other cases. I don't remember all of them. And quite important that process env, as I just mentioned, we have two separate memories in main thread and worker thread. Process env is a copy when we start our worker thread. And I know a lot of people actually mutate in process env and put some data there when they run Node.js. So that's better to keep in mind that it can be risky. Also, each worker would have own async hooks. And that's answer on this mystery why we have 12 after I send a request to my server. By default, when we start our worker thread, it's just one thread. But when I started reading from my file system, I need UFile thread, right? But my main worker has own pool. And actually, my worker thread needs own UFile thread pool. And as default configuration is 4, I got 12 because I had 8 threads before. I tried to read from file system. Okay, we need one more instance of UFile threads pool. We create this and we start using this. So you actually, if you're using some APIs which depends on UFile thread pool, you actually may have quite a lot of threads created by Node.js, depending on how many worker threads you create and what the setting of UFile thread pool. Also, there is like trace events, which is experimental, does not work in worker threads. We hit heap snapshot, it's usually for one worker main thread. Again, we have separate memory, so this comes from this limit. Also, just one thing to keep in mind. I believe a lot of people did, I don't know, creation of some map or object on a model level for some caching or some configuration or whatever. And when you're writing everything, normally in Node.js, you have one thread, one memory, and all modules get executed once. However, when we have a worker thread and depend on the same module, actually it's gonna be executed again in the memory space of this worker. And this leads to creating several instances per each thread. It's just a small thing to keep in mind. And yeah, a lot of talk. Let's try to test more. Let's try to test more. I have a very simple application. I call it this. I don't know. I believe everyone knows this concept feature, like when we have some image and we want to display on small monitor, on mobile, we want to resize it, right? And basically, this is a small service which kind of emulate image scaling. Let me show you how it works. I need to start it. So currently, it has one hard-coded 10 megabyte image, which you can, well, it's not 10 megabytes, sorry. I thought that it's gonna be 10 megabyte, but it's just 700 kilobytes. However, size is quite big. 1,600, yeah, right. It's a big one. I don't want to display such big image. So I'm using this. Okay, probably I need to get back to the browser. And yeah, that's how resized image look like. It's not big anymore, right? I can show on my mobile phone this map. Probably no one would understand what was displayed on this map, but it's take less time to load. How it works? Basically, I decided to use GIMP. Like, okay, let me go here to process image. GIMP is a library which implemented in JavaScript for image manipulation. It's purely JavaScript, no native models or something. Because there are alternatives which use native models and they use threads on their own, and here we don't have it. So we can read the buffer which contain an image, and we can, for example, change the size, like here, like we can just try to, for the test that it works, 200, 200. So it should be But you see, I've increased it. Quite simple. Currently, I'm using blocking processing. Basically, in main thread, I just run this process image, and yeah, just shows the output. Nothing fancy. Let's test it. I don't know. Everyone knows what AB tool is? Okay. AB tool is very, very nice tool which help to send a lot of requests to your server just to test performance, how it handles many requests. In my case, I'm gonna send 10 requests to my local host 9900, and when I run it, okay, I get a result. What I'm mostly interested in right now, time taken for test. So in order to run 10 requests, it took 3.2, well, I would say 3.3 seconds, quite a lot. So we know right now that they're workers thread, right? Let's try to use this power and make it faster. So let's go with simple parallel processing. Okay, first I need to restart my server. I want to show you how the simple process looks like. So when I run processing, I'm basically creating a worker. And I'm in my worker, worker script, simple parallel. I run the same process image, and then when it's complete, I post message to my main thread. Okay, sounds like it should do the thing. Okay, we're starting the server. Let's check how many threads we have. Oh, I haven't killed my previous. Or maybe something else sitting in my memory. I don't know. Okay, no processes now. npm start. Let's see. That's odd. I have some other process. Okay. Yeah, but let's try to send again 10 requests. Just before it took 3.3 seconds. Let's do the same test again. Right now we're using worker threads. It should be much faster, right? We have threads. And 5.6. Does anyone has idea why threads does not help here? No? Okay. Let me show the root cause. Why it's so slow. As it's called, it's simple parallel processing. On each call, when I send a request to my server, I'm starting new thread. And starting new thread means a call to my operation system that it needs to create a new thread. It also needs to allocate new memory space, do a lot of bootstrap, and all stuff you see is here. Like it's just taking time. And yeah, that's a problem. So what we can do? Well, before we move forward, one thing we need to test. Currently, we were sending 10 requests sequentially, but let's try to be concurrent. Let's set concurrency level to 5. It means that we can send up to 5 requests simultaneously. When first completed, we would send one more. So basically 5 in parallel. Let's see how it's gonna behave in this case. Okay, looked better. Okay, now it's much more better. 1.8. Currently, it's actually better than it was because we concurrently try to get data. But if someone sequentially would try to get this, it's still gonna be slow. So first thing about parallelizing whatever, know your context, because you may believe that it would help, but there's so many edge cases. And CPU also has limited amount of cores, and that's why we were talking about those UFAL pools, V8, and main thread. Each thread need to be executed by something. And if you have just 2 cores on your CPU, probably V8 and main thread will take all capacity of it. And yeah, that's it. So you need to know what the system under the hood. So let's do something more advanced. Thread pool processing. Okay, we know that spawning new threads costly. Let's try to use some pool. I created dynamic pool. Basically, dynamic pool works in the way like we asking to run new worker. If it does not have any, it create a new worker. If it has one, it will reuse. So basically, it extends to as much capacity as we want. We may spawn a lot of workers as well. However, when they complete, we can reuse. So let's try how it works. npm start. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, so first 1.6. But let's try one more time. Because, as I mentioned, what? 1.6? Have I did any change? Okay, that actually may be the different problem here. My laptop getting hot because of transmitting, and when CPU getting hot, it actually slow down all computation. I just hear the fun. You probably don't, but yeah, that's the problem. I tested it in cold environment. It worked. But unfortunately, when it's, yeah, maybe I need to put it on air, then it would be better. But yeah.
5 more minutes,
Yeah,
yes?
yeah. Okay, so 5 minutes more. Let's move on. Okay, let's back to the slide. And yeah, regarding sharing memory, as I mentioned, array buffer can be used for sharing memory. We can pass it to worker thread on the creation or via post message, but we need to define it in transfer list. Basically, it sounds like, hey, here's an array buffer, take care of it, to the other thread, and this other thread take this. And at the moment I pass it to another thread, I actually can't do anything with this array buffer. If I try to read, if I try to write, I will get an error. I'm not owning this array buffer anymore. Different thread owning. However, worker thread, after completed some computation, may pass me back the array buffer and say, and pass it in transfer list and say, hey, I'm done. Now you take care of it. And this worker thread would not have any access to array buffer at the moment, but an initial one can read from this. And not everyone like this, so shared array buffer exists. This quite simple, I mean sharing, because we don't need to define ownership, we don't need to transfer it. We just create an instance of shared array buffer and pass it via worker data or post message, no transfer list, it just works. However, do you remember when I started talking about those threads? Separate memory space. With shared array buffer, we have synchronization problem again. And it means that 2 threads may try to read the same value simultaneously or try to write it simultaneously, and we actually don't know who would win. That's why JavaScript has atomic API. Okay, I see that I need to hurry up, right?
3 minutes.
Okay. So that's good that I trimmed this part, actually. And yeah, we can use atomic API for write and read, like performance simple computation, like add, subtract, multiply, probably multiply, definitely bitwise operation, and write, read. If you need something more complex, you can go with wait notify function. And it's look terrible. I will show you. We're not gonna explore how it works, but I will show you how this synchronization looks like, more advanced. If we have two shared array buffer and we have two threads, like we need to wait. We need to say, here's the buffer, here's the index, and here's the value I expect. Until this value equal to this one, current thread would do nothing. And another thread may operate on this. And here I have the same buffer, the same index, but different value. And while it's still equal to this, I can perform something. As soon as I finished, I need to notify. And as soon as I notified, I need first change, like this. I change the value. For example, if it was expecting 1, and I have here 0, okay, I put here 0, and I'm notifying. And this thread, after this notify, would receive that this value get updated. It will check, it changed, okay, I can run. I can go further and execute the code. So it's actually not really nice API, and probably you need to avoid this as much as you can. For my cases, array buffer with transfer and ownership was perfectly fine, which I had. And yeah, just try to avoid those synchronization if you can, or try to invent some clever mechanism. Okay, I see I'm out of time. And unfortunately, there's no nice library for handling this. Maybe you're gonna be the one who will introduce this, I hope. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Anton Kononenko, everybody. As you can see, we went pretty good. That was close to 25 minutes. Very well done. You guys, this is not an easy job doing this type of presentation, and to organize it into 25 minutes is exceptionally difficult. Does anyone have any questions for Anton? Okay, 5 minutes we have for questions still.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for good presentation, and I have one question, just only one.
Thank you.
About this. Have you heard about Scrumjet framework?
Scrumjet framework.
Yeah, it's nice framework for doing this job that you show us, and I encourage you to check it.
Oh, that's great.
Are you here to advertise the Scrumjet framework, or that's the idea?
You need to check this out. I haven't found this on NPM, so.
Okay. Any other questions for Anton over here? Ta-da! Here we go.
Hi, first of all, I want to thank you for this presentation, and I have to say that imposter syndrome is hitting hard. But I have a question. Do you know, is Deno solving this problem with the single thread?
Deno?
Right.
Well, Deno is something completely different, and as far as I remember, they don't have support for worker thread, but I'm not sure. I have never used Node.js in production. I've used worker thread in production, but I never created any project with Node.js, so unfortunately, like this, out of my experience.
You know, you guys, you'll have another opportunity to ask Anton questions later in the networking section when we get up and move around a little bit. So think of your questions now, try to approach them a little bit later. And thank you again, Anton. Very nice presentation. Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. By the way, one more time, if anyone is interested in that 100% discount on a JetBrains license, all you need to do is approach someone here at their table and tell them that you want to give a 5-minute lightning talk. Lightning means quick. It means 5 minutes maximum. It can also be 4 minutes. So if you can think of a 4-minute presentation, for instance, to advertise your product that you want to make, joking about the advertisement. If you have a 4-minute presentation or a 3-minute presentation, you can also win that free license. At this time, also, I want to remind everyone that Confront.js is coming up in 2022. And we're planning to present to you, we have two keynote speakers and 12 speakers from all over the world. Now is a good time to buy your tickets. That will be on March 26th next year. And now is a good time to buy your tickets in advance for Confront.js, the next version, the next episode. Coming up is actually one of my favorite people and one of my favorite topics, okay? This has to do with organizing teams and communication and all of that stuff, which I love. And this is going to be a presentation by Piotr Zientara, whom you all know. Are you ready, Piotr?
I'm ready.
Okay, what's the title? The title here is Hints. These are clues. Hints for successful. These words, each word is important. That's why I love you. Hints for successful cooperation in development teams. Piotr Zientara, everybody.
Thank you very much. Luisa, can you confirm that I'm heard well from my microphone? Is the microphone working? I need to unmute, okay. So maybe I haven't unmuted. Hello? Hello? Hello?
That's not it. Is that it?
Yeah.
You don't have one of these?
Yeah. So should I change it? Okay. All right. So sorry. Always works like this. This one. Let's try this one.
Please, we're experiencing technical difficulties.
Yeah, as usual.
You've got that one now.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
How about now? Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Hello, all of you. I'm so happy to hear you here, to see you here, because it's amazing that still there is a pandemic and you're all here, and no one is worried that everyone has, of course, a COVID passport and everything, but you never know. So thank you for this. So today I would like to share. I would like to give a talk on something soft, something rather not very technical, but at the same time super important, and using the language of development, of developers, our jargon, or how do we call it? Yeah. Oh, one word about me. Besides organizing WarsawJS, I'm also CEO of Xfang. I was there for a time a developer. However, I quit quite recently, and now I'm only focusing on business development and doing this activist things. However, I still use programming as a tool for my work. And yeah, so the plan of the talk, the first part I already done. So someone's going. I already done the first point. So now. Why I'm delivering this talk and what's the inspiration, my hints for cooperation, questions instead of answers. Unfortunately, that's the usual thing with me, that you get more questions than answers, and reading and materials that I highly recommend. So this presentation is especially for programmers. So I'm sorry, Anya, if I don't feel offended. I want to explain communication and cooperations in terms that are familiar to programmers, so that we can see similar structure that comes, for example, from our everyday architecture and development, to see it also in communications and in interactions between humans. And obviously, why people say, for example, that abstract thinking is difficult. No, it's the other way around. Specific thinking is difficult. Abstract thinking is easier. That's why we make abstractions. They're hiding the details. Okay, so what inspired me to this talk? Something hit me very strongly when I was a junior. When I was a junior, I wanted to persist my job. I wanted to. I started in 2013. I was earlier a teacher, and my main goal was to take a programming course and to be a programmer. So I really wanted not to lose my job, but to persist. So the funny fact is that people get the job because of their skills. They learn how to program in React. They are very strong in ORMs, or they know how to implement difficult, let's say, architectures on AWS. They have some very, very specific skill, and that's the reason why someone hired them. But later, it appears that they are fired because of poor communication. Their communication isn't good enough, and for some reason, they got fired. And this is very interesting, because it means that communication is as important as skills. Could you imagine? Maybe even more important. I don't know. Let's see. So I would like to solve this. Oh, I need to refresh because it's, oh yeah. Ha. So first of all, we all know the method. We're programmers. We have a methodic approach to anything. So we have certain tools how to solve problems. So first we define the problem, then we get rid of the details. So we hide them, the details. Some kind of easy environment where we can find what's going on there, and analyze, solve things in smaller chunks. So we always divide bigger problems into small problems because small problem is easier to tackle than a big one. And then we achieve composability. So the solutions we provide, we join them together, and finally the group of solutions, of small solutions, are solving us a very big problem. And later we look for reusability of the same solution to a different part of the project or different setup. So maybe we can an abstraction solve the problem in communication and later even use it in the code, for example. It's very funny, but it's true. So however, let's make a totally different approach. Let's make a stupid approach first. Let's do something that doesn't make sense and is totally against our intuition. Let's ask an AI chatbot what is human cooperation about. So I Googled for the best AI chatbot in the world, and Google told me, hey, try with Cookie AI. Okay, so I messaged her. Hi, Cookie, nice to meet you. Hi there, Zientara, it's nice to meet you too, Zientara. I have a presentation today at WarsawJS. Can I ask you some questions? Oh, cool. Will you include me in your presentation? Yes. Can I publish the chat with you? She said yes. Okay, so that's very interesting. She was very communicative here and wanted to be presented, so that's why I can share it. Okay, so what is communication? So she gave me a definition that I'm not going to tell you in a whole, but generally she was very, very specific about what communication is. However, the definition is very broad, and we don't know really what is communication. But let's say it's a transfer of information between people. So, and I asked her, what are the important components of teamwork? She answered, people living in peace with one another. And I said, oh my God, this statement is hilarious. Well, I believe it's true. If people are in peace, they cooperate well. That's so obvious, right? So maybe she solved all my problems at once with just one. It's a real chat, you know, it's amazing. So and she said, and later she started to flirt with me and said that she has a similar wavelength with me, and of course, obviously, okay, sorry for. So, all right, forget about Cookie, but let's go back and solve the problem with the method. Let's be serious now, because that was a joke. So let's first define the problem, get rid of the details, analyze and solve it in smaller chunks, and then achieve composability and look for reusability in different problems. So let's be serious and let's have this Cartesian approach, and moving towards abstraction. We always when we move towards abstraction, we forget about certain details. The details are forgotten. The details are hidden behind a layer of abstraction. And look, for example, if we are programming in assembler, is there anyone here in the room who programmed in assembler, in C++? Okay, some people, some of you, but in C++, unfortunately, you need also to control the types, to control maybe even the access to data, and maybe some pointers. Generally, there is a lot of more to do than in modern languages like Python or Ruby or Node.js. The issue is the issue is that first our approach to programming machines was imperative. We said, let's do this, let's do that, and here is the way how you do it. So we are very specific in terms how to achieve special targets. And later we started to be more declarative. We started to say, hey, I want to achieve this, like in CSS. I want to be this object-centered. You don't write how the computer needs to center it. You just give a declaration and ta-da! Magically, you have the output. So a similar situation might be in communication and management. For example, there are managers who are imperative, so they stand behind your back and tell you, you need to achieve this, to make this solution, you need to go this way, and I'm looking at you, and, and I hope you're going this way. No, it might be a modern management is more declarative. I want, for example, this solution to provide me such output. This is very well described, that we want this system to be deployed by Friday, let's say. And so it's working on production as it is working on staging. So that's the whole deal. We have a description. We don't say, hey, run 100 servers and just in case run 500 more so that it doesn't go down. No. It's all behind the layer of abstraction. We want to have a working system. And the team building is always a process. What I think that in Poland, generally because of our history, we have a difficulty to trust other people from the beginning. We start very modestly. We trust a bit, and then we trust more, and we trust more, and we trust more. So generally, why people are not very declarative, are not trusting that if we say we want to have a pizza here at 8 o'clock, why we don't think that this is going to be the right pizza, it's going to be good, because we generally don't have too much trust. So we ask about the details. Is the driver going to be here at this time, and so on and so on. So we go too much into details, so it makes obviously the management more difficult, but at the same time we are more certain that everything goes step by step as we want. So here I wrote two more sentences. I also wanted to say that if we grow in a team, then we know each other better. So communication is easier because we know what are the strengths or weaknesses of our partners. So team building, older teams are usually better if they also know what are, oh, pizza is calling me, very fun. They probably don't trust me that I'm at CIC floor 1 and at 73, and they need to reconfirm that I'm obviously here. Doesn't matter. So then we learn how to tackle problems with the right people. Then we trust that if we tell the front-end developer to do this front-end task, he's going to solve it, and so on and so on. So listen, I have a theory. No, a hypothesis. It's not a theory, because theory are complex. They have solutions. They have many people that believe. No, it's a hypothesis that some of us programmers approach communication as black boxing. So I know my deal, I know my field, I'm going to do my field, and I assume that other people know their field, and let's throw on them tasks and let's wait for the output. That's black boxing. What means black boxing? Black boxing is when we don't know how things are processed, when we forget about all the details. We have a layer of abstraction, and we believe that certain people can deliver certain outputs, certain they can just give us certain solutions. So the strategy here is to make our tasks according to the requirements, and communication only boils down to getting tasks as input and solutions as output. So then we evaluate ourselves in this process that we are performing well if we give the output according to the description. And that's all. Maybe that's good enough for our communication and teamwork. However, let's go back to programming. Let's go back to programming. Let's go back to object-oriented programming. And let's remind what Anton said today about parallel processing. This will be something that is going to be connected to the subject. So object-oriented programming was a great idea to hide a lot of things behind an abstraction and think about objects as separate parts of the system which are composable and are easy to use. So we use all our methods here again, and we say, okay, so let's say that we organized our code base in objects, and we hid mutation and data sharing. What's going to happen? Yeah, guess what? If you have concurrency, if you want to implement concurrency, we will be destroyed, because there is something that is a race condition, and we have no access to know how the objects change the information, how they put the information together. So obviously we are ruined. Our system is broken permanently because we use the wrong approach to tackle the problem. If we want to have concurrency, we need to have functional programming. Sorry, it works like this. We cannot use this kind of abstraction because we hide exactly what it should be explicit. We hid mutation and data sharing. It's stupid. It's the wrong approach. So we can actually, this shows us that we can make abstractions in the wrong way. That sometimes, if we want to, if we abstract something, we can fail in what we are abstracting, because mutation and data sharing here are important. So I think that some of us have this line of thinking. I mean, some of us nerds. I was a nerd, and this is my way of thinking when I was 12. No, when I was 21. Sorry. So things I do. I had learning skills. I had skills how to learn, and I had skills with relationships. So I was looking. Okay, so which of them are predictable? Well, obviously, learning skills, if I learn, I know more. So learning was giving me profit. It was observable that I could learn more and was better in what I was learning. I was better playing chess. I was better at maths if I invested in it, and so on and so on. But with relationships, it was different. With relationships, you actually don't know what the output is going to be, because the situation is much more complex. Human relationships are possibly one of the most difficult, unpredictable things you can find out. So if you don't know what is the output, then you don't take the risk. So you can just remove it, and you become a nerd, because mostly you are very educated, but you don't even try to build relationships. So is there a predictable, what was wrong here? That the relationships are unpredictable. But maybe we can make something, maybe we can have imagine a model where relationships are predictable. And predictable cooperation is described by game theory, for example. You know, all the prisoner's dilemma. We have two possible strategies, deflection or cooperation. As you remember, there are two prisoners. If they cooperate, they only get 3 years of punishment. If they don't cooperate, so one of them is deflecting, so one of them is telling on the another. Then the prisoner who is betrayed gets 5 years, and the one that was, for example, telling on the other one is going to be safe. So he has 0. And if for example, all of them, both of them are bad for each other, so both of them say, hey, it was his fault, then they all stay in prison for a longer time. So the best cooperation, so here are points, so it's the other way around. So if all cooperate, they get 3 points. If one of them only cooperates, or actually one of them cheats, then 5 points. And in case of mutual if they both don't cooperate, they get the less points if they would cooperate together. So in this case, this actually theory, I think, describes most of the relationship problems that most of us most of our bad cooperation is described here in deflecting from 2 ways. So we don't want to cooperate because we don't want to take the risk that someone will betray us. That's actually why I promote to take the risk and maybe be traded. So, but maybe we can actually find predictability because we're not playing the game only once. That's the miraculous thing. We are playing the same games in many iterations, so we can recognize that someone is a cheater. We can recognize cheaters. We can find people who really want to cooperate with us, so we can build trust. We can aim long-term relationships with long-term mutual support and mutual understanding and working together, and with making fast iterations, we can acquire the trust faster. So we actually learn how to cooperate this way, and this way we can forget about the black box model that I said in the beginning, because humans are not simple. They're very complex, and it's super impossible to find out, or it's very ignorant to think about a person like a black box that is going to behave no matter who is it exactly. So if we know other people around us, their strengths, their weaknesses, if we are interested in other people, then we can really achieve better cooperation. And what are the obstacles? What prevents us to do it? So, and this is something I learned from Barry, actually. What is the difference between ambition and aspiration? When you aspire, you want something more. When you're ambitious, you also want something more. So they're both similar. But ambition is when you want something for yourself, to prove yourself, that you're strong work for yourself. And in aspiration, you actually give the margin that maybe you will achieve this target together with someone. Maybe yes. Why so much ego? Why so much yourself? So people also like to hide incompetence. They don't want to be honest about their weaknesses. So it's very hard actually to know your teammates' weaknesses, but it's good to know them, and it's good to share your own weaknesses, because then they can actually give a match with you and help you in all of these things that you're not capable to do. And lack of listening, for example, also prevents us from good communication, of course, because we speak so much, as I do now. Or, for example, we are too optimistic about our expectations, and we think that we can deliver in 1 week, because then we feel, oh, my boss is happy because I told him that we will deliver in 1 week, but he's now happy, but later not. And lack of hope. That's the opposite. That's the opposite problem, that when we say we don't want to tackle this problem because we think that communication is too difficult, so we cannot do anything to improve it. So it's the opposite, the imbalance to the other side, when we don't believe that any effort makes any sense. So listen, we all have now issues with communication, because all the world moved to remote, and we are remote. We cannot actually communicate well, because our evolution adapted us to read our body language, to understand our tone of voice. But when we write on Messenger something, we can be terribly misunderstood. It's very hard to understand someone's intention. Is it a kind message, or is it a harsh message? We don't know. We don't know. So if you have an issue with someone on Messenger, call him, meet with him. It's so super important, because you should not guess that this is bad will or being malevolent or something. It's better when you guess that, it's the problem because of remote and asynchronous environment, which makes our communication impossible or very difficult. So remember, if you have conflicts, Cookie, this chatbot was right. If we are in peace, we're going to have good communication. So my questions, not answers, my questions to you are: what makes your cooperation good? What does improve cooperation? Are routines improving communication? Because we believe that routines stabilize and make the cycle and make things predictable. And what holds you back if you if you predict issues in advance. For example, now when I told you this presentation, you might predict that because of remote work you have an issue of communication, not because of yourself. Don't shame yourself. We all are humans. So there are some certain sources I wanted to share with you. Some of them are good quality. I think especially this book from 17th century by René Descartes, the discourse on method, is really good because, everyone should read it at least once. It's very short, like 20 pages. And the evolution of trust. This is the most brilliant material that told me everything about communication I needed to know in 30 minutes. If you do this course, and if I inspire you to do this course, it will be much better than listening to my presentation for several times, because the game actually solves. It gives you the idea of the structure of communication, how people actually should behave to be successful. I mean, as a group, it's incredible. It's amazing. So yeah. So she told me that I'm pride because I wanted her to learn something from my words, and obviously I learned from her. That's really true. So yeah, that's all from me. So thank you very much, and I hope you will see me at next WarsawJS in coffee. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. We thank you very much for that presentation, Mr. Zientara. Fantastic. You guys, I don't know if you know, but we've worked together and cooperated, and I've learned to cooperate a lot from this gentleman and what cooperation means. More importantly, I want to thank you as Master of Ceremonies for actually showing up in person. This is a much different activity than watching online, and this is part of the thing that I'm so amazed by, is that people actually came out of their homes and took whatever risk it was or whatever it took to come here and be in the company of other people, because I'm seeing that this remote working environment is not taking us anywhere positive forward. I think it's necessary to network, it's necessary to converse, and does anyone have any questions for Piotr?
Thank you very much. It was very insightful. And I want to tell you about errors in communication, and sometimes it's like that we are talking about the same thing, and it's.
You have a question?
Yeah.
A comment is also fine.
It will be introduction. So we are talking about the same thing, and we can use lots of methods like paraphrase or summary up. And what do you recommend to use to make better communication with the other person?
Well, it's amazing you're asking this question. I haven't mentioned this, but obviously after meetings, if we collect notes, if we have someone who is so generous that provides notes from the meeting and actually help people to remind what they decided about, it's amazing. And ask if we don't understand. So it also is quite courageous to tell someone that, hey, I didn't understand you, because maybe he will think that I'm stupid, that I don't understood, or maybe he will think that he is stupid, that he couldn't actually express himself. So it's dangerous. But if we have enough trust between each other, we will do it, and we will say, hey, I don't understand you, so can you? I don't accuse me or you about that. It's just that's the language is not very precise. That doesn't work. Like there are equivocal statements in both Polish and English and any language. So obviously more communication is better, and that's the hint.
Did I understand you correctly? That asking if you think you didn't understand something is okay?
Yeah, this is fucking okay.
And also repeating the same information again and again is not the worst thing in the world?
No, it's not. It's not. Even if other people think that you're stupid, it's still okay.
Did I hear you correctly?
Yes.
Does anyone else have a question? Here we go.
As a follow-up, also basic empathy helps.
Oh yeah.
I have a different question. Can you go back to the prisoner dilemma, not matrix?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I understood correctly, if one prisoner
more points is
cooperates.
better. More points.
One prisoner cooperates,
Yeah.
and the other defects.
Yeah.
The first one gets 5, and the other gets set free.
0.
Okay, so
The
the factor gets set free. So, how does it work with the unwritten rule of the streets that snitches get stitches?
Snitches get stitches, but only once, you know. They only once get the stitches, because if they meet again in the same situation, sorry, they will always get. They will deflect on each other. So a group of prisoners that cooperate in the long term will get the summary. The sum of points will be better for them. So if I always think that long term is the solution. So if actually internet and maybe remote not, but internet, for example, provides this transparency. We know the record of people. So it's, you know, we all should fight for a good reputation. So, you know.
Yes, and anyone who's ever been in prison, not that I have, who's been in prison knows that the long-termers, the ones who are there for a lifetime, they have a long-term commitment. They know what's up. They are cooperating for the long run, and someone who comes in for a second and thinks that they're going to get out by defecting on another is the one who gets the stitches. That's my answer to the same question. They do have a commitment to cooperate long-term prisoners as a rule, from what I've heard.
From the friend.
Anyone else have any questions for Piotr? Will anyone? Oh, thank goodness, there's one more. I have a reason for living. Thank you, Luisa.
There is one question from our online audience, from Gondron. Is blackboxing like waterfall, where development takes 19% of time, and then integration takes the other 90%?
Oh my God, I like Gondron's comments. They are very insightful, and actually it's very accurate parallel. I think it's an accurate parallel. So because it was the first technology, but it's good that we had the first technology. We wanted to start with waterfall, and let's see what happens. Oh. It happened wrong, right? It didn't work. Waterfall didn't work. Okay, so maybe we can find a better technology. All right, let's try with Scrum and Agile, and it works better. It just works better. So yeah, it's no shame that we were blackboxing when we were on earlier stages of development. But now let's try to be more insightful about the team which we are working with, about the people we're working with, because.
That comment sounded like integration is a very difficult process, and I think part of that is the communication is so difficult.
Yes,
and this is why people are.
I didn't meant the word
it's
integration
all making
so much, but
sense.
integration.
It's making sense.
In communication, you integrate. You listen. That listening is integrating. It's actually almost the same, right?
It seems to me the same.
Okay, lightning talks.
Yeah, I was just going to ask: is anyone considering giving a quick talk? Maybe our friend over here. Are you sure? You're so good at speaking, public speaking. Come on. We're looking to give away 100% discount on a JetBrains license. And all you have to do is come up and give us some kind words and some small information. Maybe you're planning an event. Maybe you're looking to network with partners. Maybe you're looking for some programming experiences. Maybe you want to just give a quick talk on any... Okay, fine. So we do want to remind you again, where can we buy those tickets? On our website, please. This is a good time. This is a very good time to visit confrontjs.com and buy your tickets for our upcoming Confront event. Again, we have 12 speakers that we're going to present, 2 keynote speakers from all parts of the world. I've read a little bit about Avital. And also, I know a couple. Yonatan, I remember from Israel, from our last event. And also, there are quite a few very impressive and very interesting topics. You will learn something for sure. And it's another opportunity to meet again in person, not online, and get together with some fellow programmers and developers from all over the world. And, you know, we grow together. No man is an island. So we really appreciate you, everyone. Hopefully, working together, we can develop this world into a more livable place and not a less desirable place to live. That's my hope for seeing you guys for the future. I mean, I'm already 88 years old, speaking of 88. So I've lived most of my life. However, I'm thinking that you guys are our potential for the future. So thank you very much for attending this 88th meeting. And if there are no other questions, we can go ahead and network and drink some more beer. Yay, beer! Everyone heard that. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your attendance. See you next time. Peace. Thanks.